afterthought.com/join us if you want to find all the ways to catch us. And with that, let me rock and roll. Good morning, podcasters. Today is Tuesday, May the 19th, 2026. And today, if listeners can hear your podcast, but I got to start over. I just totally was distracted. My wife is in the hospital and she's doing okay, but I get a text from her once in a while and it totally throws me off. So I'm going to start over. Sorry about that. Here we go. Good morning, podcasters. Today is Tuesday, May the 19th, 2026. And today, if listeners can hear your podcast, but they aren't feeling it, Jodi Krangle is here to help. We're exploring sound, storytelling, branding, and the audio choices that create real connection. So if you're listening live on Clubhouse, hit the share button, top right-hand side of the screen, and share it however Clubhouse lets you. And if you're catching us via podcast, YouTube, etc., please share this episode with a fellow podcaster. And now give us about 30 seconds, and we'll get things rolling. Thanks for being here. The Podcasting Morning Show is powered by Ironic Media, helping podcasters launch, polish, and grow great shows. And by Content Creators Accountant, helping creators build real business behind their content. Good morning again, Podcasting Morning Show. Thank you so much for being here. I am your host, Mark Ronick, and currently on the virtual stage with me, we have, bear with me because I got to look in multiple places, Ralphie Stepp, Matt Bliss, DR Fay. Who else do we have here? I think, is that everybody? Oh, Jason Sircone, of course, my business partner from Empowered Podcasting and a great podcaster. And look at this. We also have, let me invite Phil Better up on stage as well. We've got Phil Better joining us. It's been a minute since he's been here. I think
he's here. The Canadians won last night.
That's right. There's a fellow Canadian because our special guest today is Jodi Krangle.
Yay.
Hello, Jodi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to have you here. Before we get to Jodi, let me share with you that we are still soliciting for our Spotlight series. So if you'd like your podcast to be featured on the Podcasting Morning Show for free, no strings attached, this is just a community thing we're doing to help support you, our fellow community member. Submit a 60-second clip about your show, something that gives people a feel for your podcast. And then if we select it, we'll play your clip on a future episode. We'll share what stood out to us and ultimately introduce your show to our community of podcasters and creators. So all you got to do is go to podcastingmorningshow.com/spotlight, submit your clip. Maybe it's just you introducing your show to us. Maybe it's you introducing your show and a clip from it. We'll play that as well. But we want to make sure we're hearing from you, the host, and you're giving us an explanation of what your show's about, who it's for, etc. So
I know we've gotten some submissions. So when are we going to play the first one?
I think, we played one last Friday. That was our first one that we played. The next one, I think we're going to play this coming Friday. We're just trying to leave a little space for people to keep submitting. We do have a handful, but we need more. We want to really do this right. So submit yours, whether you are a regular co-host here or a casual listener, we will accept your entry. So submit it at podcastingmorningshow.com/spotlight. And with that, I'm going to hand the baton to Ralph to officially introduce Jodi Krangle. Go for it.
Well, good morning, everyone. And today we're excited to welcome Jodi Krangle to the show. Jodi's a professional voice actor. She's a singer. She's a podcaster and an audio branding expert who's been working in voiceover since 2007. Now, her voice has been trusted by major brands, including, and listen to this list, I was amazed, Dell, FedEx, Lindt, and the CW Network. And she's also a Voice Arts Award winner from the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences for Outstanding Narration Demo Reel. Jodi's the host of the Audio Branding Podcast, where she explores how sound influenced branding, marketing, emotion, and the way audiences connect with that, what they hear. So today we're going to talk to Jodi about how podcasters can use sound more intentionally, what professional voiceover can teach us about delivering connection, and how the right audio choices can make a show more memorable, more trustworthy, and more effective. So please join me in welcoming Jodi Krangle to the Podcasting Morning Show today.
Hello,
Hey.
Jodi.
Great intro. And hey, Gabe, thanks for being here.
Yes, Gabe is over both in actually two places. Gabe is on Clubhouse and also watching on YouTube. Love that.
Cool.
Yeah. So, Ralph, so I think you want to lead us off with our first question. For
I
Jodi.
do, Jodi, and thank you so much for being here. Now, your career seems to be a mix of voiceover, music, podcasting, and branding. How do you describe what you actually do every day?
What I do every day is voiceover. That's my job. That's my career. That's what I love. And the podcast kind of came out of that. I've been a voice actor since 2007, but my podcasting career kind of started in 2019. So I decided I was going to do a podcast about kind of why people don't pay enough attention to sound, because as a voice actor, I was finding that I was the last person called onto a project. And it was disappointing for me because I'm not a Band-Aid. I'm not a bow on a present. I'm like, I should be my voice or someone like me or the music or something like that, the sound effects, whatever you're going to put on your commercial branding project, whatever. The sound, the audio portion of that should not be an afterthought. It should have been baked in from the start. So to me, it's if you're not baking it in from the start, you're leaving money on the table because the emotion won't be there. You're not going to be able to reach people. You want people to feel something when they see and hear this project, whatever it is, commercial, corporate narration. I tend to do things that are 5 minutes of finished audio or less. So I stick in the short form lane. and it's disappointing to me when I find that I'm an afterthought, because it shouldn't be an afterthought. The sound makes people feel. You can get information from the visuals. You can really appreciate the visuals, but they don't really make you feel the way that sound does.
I agree with you. And let me ask you this, Jodi. So what came first for you? The love of sound, the love of music, or the love of using your voice? Since you're using your voice every day, what came first?
I've been singing since I was 6. So, and I come from a very musical family. So we were always musical. We were always creating music at home, and I did it all through school. And as much as I can, I keep my fingers into little musical projects here and there, but it's not how I make my living. And the way that I came to understand how powerful the voice can be was through volunteering my time at the CNIB. So I read books, magazines really, onto reel-to-reel tape in 95, 96 for the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. And I loved it. It was so much fun. And not only was it fun, but I actually enjoyed the tech. Like even running the reel-to-reel, like that was fun for me.
Yeah, I used to love being able to, use those razor blades and cut it right in that precise spot. And yeah, I used to love doing that. Yeah, it was fun.
Now, I mean, I only did it for a year. So, it
Me
wasn't.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like once a week. I think I was there once a week for about a year. And I loved it. But I had no idea what voiceover was before that. I knew about radio DJs. I didn't know anything else. And I was doing SEO and internet marketing at the time, like 95. I was an early adopter of the internet and had a songwriting website, so music. And I just didn't really decide to get into voiceover until 2007. And really because the remote options became more and more available. Because I'm living in a suburb. It's actually even beyond a suburb. They call it the GTA. So I'm north of Toronto, and Toronto is a mess. I'm not saying it's not a great city. I'm just saying that the roads and the parking and the one-way streets and all of that is a mess for anyone coming in from outside.
And the hockey.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
just
I'm on a hockey kick this morning. I'm sorry.
it's awful. It's just awful. So if I don't have to drive into downtown Toronto, all the better. And also, I have clients from all over the world. So being in my home studio means I can connect with one person for half an hour, one person for an hour and a half, one person for 20 minutes after that. Like, one after the other. I don't have to be traveling from studio to studio. It's all there. So so it just makes it a lot easier for me to do what I do. And remote really, I mean, it honestly didn't really get going until 2013, I even want to say. Like that was really when it became super easy for me to just stay home. But before that, I had to be going into downtown Toronto all the time, and it was a bit painful.
Well, let's dig into, and thank you for sharing all that with us. I didn't know some of that about you, so that's good to learn more about you. And to be honest with you, it wasn't until we were preparing for this interview that I didn't even really know that your passion is singing. So this was cool to learn more about you, and it doesn't surprise me with that voice. I think somebody in the chat here on YouTube, I think who was it? It was John that said something about how, or somebody said, Gabe said your voice is silky smooth.
Oh, thank you.
And actually, someone else
asked about the mic, didn't they?
Yeah, John asked about your mic.
Okay, so this is my outside mic. This is the mic that I use when I'm on podcasts. My inside mic is a Sennheiser 416, which is a $1,200 mic. So that's my job. That's my career. That's what I use when I'm doing voiceover, and it comes out pristine, like really nice. But this mic is a USB condenser mic. It's called a HyperX. And if you are on a PC, you can make it whatever color you want it to be. If you're on a Mac, I believe it scrolls through the rainbow, and they have a black cased one and a white cased one.
Okay, cool.
But it's like $100 mic. It is not expensive.
Yeah, right.
I was going to say, Jodi, I mean, you sound amazing either way, but why wouldn't you use the $1,200 mic for a podcast?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be outside of my booth. So
okay, so it's built right into that space.
Yeah,
okay.
it's kind of in that space, and I don't want to be switching it over all the time. And also, I mean, hey, that looks pretty cool.
It does look cool.
Absolutely.
Why not?
It's definitely a cool looking mic. I think cool looking mics are cool. Jodi, I agree.
Yes, I see that, Ralph. I see that with yours over there. Yes. And by the way,
why not?
Yeah, why not? And that other voice, that was Jason Sircone. I know I introduced him, but not officially. I didn't say hello. So if you're wondering who that voice was, if you're listening, that's my buddy Jason. All right, so let's talk a little bit about sound, right? This is your area of expertise for sure. When you talk about the power of sound, what do you wish more creators understood? What do you wish more podcasters understood about sound?
That paying attention to it means that your listeners will pay attention to you longer. So
expand on that. Yeah.
Well, okay, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, a lot of marketing podcasts specifically. And what I'm finding more often than not is that they're miles away from their microphone, and I can hear the echo of the room around them. I am not here to say that everyone needs to have absolutely pristine sound. If you're not a professional and doing this on a regular basis, hey, all the power to you, do what you can do. But one thing that will help you get better sound is just to be closer to your mic. And I am not asking the guests to worry about that. That's up to the host to figure out. If the guest sounds like they're in an echoey room, okay, fine, right? Because not everybody has the equipment, not everybody has the experience.
I mean, we
understand.
even see that on TV,
Exactly.
mainstream media. They are okay with that.
Exactly, yeah. But the host, the host needs to sound like they know what they're doing. And the host needs to be closer to their mic. I am not in a sound-treated room right now. I'm just in a smaller room. But because I'm close to my mic, you're not hearing my room. And that's enough. That's all you need to do. So, people who are, wanting to keep the mic out of the picture or whatever like that,
Right.
get over it.
Agreed.
I don't care if it's in the screen or whatever. And I've been doing video with my podcast since episode 150, and we're at like 330 right now. So, it's been a while. And luckily I have people to support me in that, and I'm not the one doing the editing, but I have never been concerned with having a mic in my shot, right? It doesn't matter. And the closer you are to that mic, the more rich your voice sounds, the more you kind of sound like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Great point. By the way, I did want to say also what I find interesting is when we were talking about your microphone and sound being pristine or whether that matters or not, and yours being a condenser microphone, I know that we here talk a lot about, we encourage newer podcasters that maybe don't have the sound environment to avoid those condenser mics. And so I just wanted to, did you want to speak at all on the difference between that before we go to DR with her question?
Well, a condenser will pick up more nuance of the voice. So, again, you can block the problems that you might have with a condenser by being close enough to it. So, a lot of the reason that people go with dynamic mics is because they don't want to worry about proximity, or they don't want to worry about the sound of the room or noises that might come in around them or something like that. And I understand if you don't have a pristine environment, if you're in a place where it might be noisy, yeah, sure. I mean, a dynamic mic will muddy some of that. It won't let it come through all that nicely. But it also muddies your voice. So as a voice actor, I can't. I just can't do it. So
even for a podcast, because I know you use different mics.
Yeah, it's a different mic, and it's a USB mic as opposed to an XLR mic, but no, I need a condenser. That's for me though. Like I'm not assuming everyone is the same as me.
Sure.
And I just like the idea of being able to hear a proximity effect if you're close. And the idea of, and what that means is it kind of like deepens your voice. It makes it more resonant. It's an interesting effect that happens when you're closer to a mic. And I find that the condenser mics offer a little more nuance. You hear a little more clearly what the voice really sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that one way that I like to do what you were just describing, the way I like to use that technique is, like this is about where I'm normally positioned away from my mic. So you can hear right now what that sounds like, right? But sometimes when I want to get a little more intimate with the audience, when I really want to kind of pull them in regarding what I'm saying, I'll get in a little closer to the mic, and I might even soften my voice a little bit more.
It makes it more intimate.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, we have several people that from the panel here that want to ask questions. We're going to go to DR, we're going to go to Jason, and then we're going to go to Matt Bliss. Go ahead, DR.
You stole my question, Mark. It was about the condenser versus the dynamic. And yeah, as a producer, I tell most of my clients who are podcast newbies, go with the dynamic. There's, let's get over that learning curve that a condenser might take, and just go with the dynamic. It's going to be fine for you right now. I'll fix it in the post,
Yeah, I think with podcasting, to your point, DR, I agree with you. And back to Jodi's point, I agree with Jodi, where, it's different strokes for different folks, right?
Totally.
You may have different preferences, different reasons for it. And I think it's important to play with the different types of mics if you're able to feel what sounds best for you and your voice and your situation. All right, so then this means we're going to go to Jason and then Matt Bliss. Go ahead, Jason.
I want to go back to what Jodi was saying about the mic being out of the picture. And I've talked to people that have said that their videos get better results if the mic is in picture. And we can open this to the whole panel and to the whole room. What do you think about that? Is there any logic or any science to a microphone being in your screen that makes you appear to be even smarter than you actually are?
You know what? Let me relate this to something sound related that I actually studied in one of my podcasts. And that is that uh, we actually assume that things aren't working if they don't, like, for instance, a leaf blower, if it's not loud, we assume it's not working.
Mm.
Or if a hair dryer, if it's not loud enough, we assume it's not working, right? So if the mic is in the picture unconsciously or subconsciously, maybe people are assuming that you're really not serious. I don't know. Like it could be something like that. I don't think honestly that it's the thing about it being in the picture that's the issue. I just want the sound to be better.
Yeah, agreed.
I actually had an experience with this, Jodi, because I hired a publicist, and when we started working together, she said, Ralph, she said, because I switched to a shotgun mic because I said I do all video now. I mean, I do audio as well, but I do video. She goes, yeah, but she says, if you put the mic in the shot, it gives you street cred. And I was like, well, and I hadn't really thought about that. And we did some testing, and she's absolutely right. And because I was so hesitant, because I didn't want the microphone in the shot. So I spent a lot of money on a nice SE, and it's great. Like, it sounds great. But this microphone that I'm using now is the Heil Fin, and it just gives street cred. So I think there's something to be said for that, Jason, as well. I was answering what you were saying too, Jason.
I think it's just more nostalgia more than anything else. And I think that's what people have to just get over. And I think even if you used a shotgun mic, if that's doing the job for you, Ralph, and you wanted to have that other mic in the shot and it's not working, I think it's just as good as anything else, because David Letterman did it. You know, a lot of other people have put that old style mic because people like Jodi said, it's about, seeing it is believing it kind of thing.
Thank you, Alex Baelish. Welcome to the stage, by the way. And Tim, before I get to you, Matt, Tim puts in the Clubhouse chat, what does Jodi recommend for guests in order to keep their vocal cords lubricated and to help prevent mouth noises? So, Jodi, we're going to go back to that question after we hear from Matt, but let's just plant that seed now. Matt, what was your question?
I don't like being the guy who says, hey, that was a great segue, but that was a great segue.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Part of my question was going to be related to you talking about using a USB condenser mic in the ideal environment. There's probably a lot of things that you've practiced over time, Jodi, that you do with your voice and your mouth and setting yourself up for success in what is probably a fairly standard one. Because if I plopped some beginner podcaster sitting where you're sitting right now, I'd say it wouldn't sound as ideal as it does on your own voice. So have you got any of the big ones that you might reflect on over the last couple of decades of work doing stuff with your voice that you do now?
Don't speak directly into the mic. So the reason that it works so well with where I'm seated and where my mic is, and people who aren't seeing it won't realize what is happening here, I'm actually talking diagonally across the mic. I'm not talking directly into it. Like, if I did that, you'd hear the pop, right?
Yeah.
You hear the pop, right? Okay.
You can even just hear a difference just overall.
All I did was turn my head.
Yeah.
Okay. So really, it's all about where the mic is placed. And it can be close to you, but if it's directly in front of you and all the air is popping into that mic directly right on, and you don't have even if you have like a guard, it's not going to sound as good. So yeah, it's all about mic placement. It really is.
But
So,
I don't want to take credibility from you, Jodi. Like, there are things that a voice actor does with their mouth. Like, you probably have done anti-sibilance practice, and your tongue works against your teeth and things like that.
There are some ways to prevent that. I know that I do have sibilance if I am in my studio, and I have to sometimes I have to take care of it in post, because there's just, there's only so much you can do. But what you can do is place like a finger in front of your lips, kind of like this, and it sort of parts the air a little bit, or use a pencil or something like that. I've known a lot of people to do that to make them make less explosive P's, for instance, like, it blocks it from being too much. So there are ways to do that. And we'll get into mouth clicks and stuff like that with the next question. But yeah, there are techniques, but again, these days it's so easy to take care of in post that, I don't know a lot of voice actors now who worry about it too much, to be honest.
So then, yeah, let's get into what Tim asked here. So he's asking about keeping vocal cords lubricated to help those mouth noises. So you talked a little bit about positioning being helpful, but what can you tell us about lubrication on our vocal cords?
Well, you need to have had water at least 20 minutes before you're going to actually be doing something, because your vocal cords need to be lubricated. They need to be moistened. I don't know. That's not a great word to use, but but they need that time to absorb the moisture. And it doesn't happen if you're sipping water while you're talking. That just makes it worse. Also, I have heard, and I have done this myself, and it does work, that green apples, like just biting into a green apple, will get rid of a lot of mouth noise.
Have
it
you
helps
tried
a lot.
that personally?
Oh yeah, and it does
Okay.
work. It totally works. Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It's the pectin in the juice or something like that. Like there's something that just like completely takes all of that away. So if you really need to do that, that's an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's different. Like some people are on medication that makes it worse. Some people have dentures. There's all sorts of reasons why this might happen. So you just have to find the things that work best for you, but there are a number of options.
Thank you, Jodi. And by the way, I guess, Matt, you owe a thank you. I guess you got a new listener because John just put in the chat on Clubhouse that he subscribed to your podcast, Matt. I guess the question you asked or the things that you're saying was enough for him to hit that subscribe button. So, and by the way, let me say that since we're following our fellow creators here, I want to share with you to go visit Jodi's website. Jodi, you want to give the URL for everybody?
Right when I was taking a sip of
coffee.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. I wasn't even looking.
Okay.
I should have looked.
No worries. I am at voiceoversandvocals.com. The podcast is at audiobrandingpodcast.com if people want to check it out directly, but it is off the main website as well. So
cool. All right. So go check Jodi out for sure. I think, Ralph, you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw one thing out there too. I keep this in my studio. It's called Biotine Dry Mouth Spray. And I use this a couple of times when I'm doing recording, and I have found it to be fantastic for you get that dry mouth, you get that cracking. But I'm not trying to promote it. I don't have an affiliate link with them, but it's literally here on my desk, here in my studio. I found it to be really useful. But Jodi, I wanted to pivot a little bit. So when podcasters hear the word audio branding, which is what you talk about on your show all the time, they might instantly think, well, that's just the intro music. But what does audio branding actually include? What does it mean?
It's a pretty wide umbrella. So anything sound related that people would remember. It could be a phrase that you say at the beginning and end of every podcast you put out. People get used to hearing you say that phrase. And if you don't say it, they want to hear it. They ask you about it. There's certain music that starts off things. There are segments, maybe segment sounds that go in between things inside of your podcast. It's a whole bunch of things. And it's also the personality of the host. So, or the co-host and the host, like there are things that the hosts do that make people feel comfortable. And a lot of that is in the sound of their voice, in the confidence of when they ask questions, in how they segue, all sorts of interesting things that make them a unique person to listen to. And honestly, people listen to podcasts maybe for the information at first, but they stay for the host. That's why they're there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jodi, let's assume that new podcasters never thought about this before. They never thought about sound. They never thought about these things. What are the first 3 sound decisions they should make on purpose, intentionally?
Please be close to your mic. Oh, that's interesting.
What
Hold
happened?
on. Sorry, I think we had a power outage. That's interesting.
Oh, well, you're still here with us.
Yeah, because I have an uninterrupted power supply
Now that's a professional right there.
Yeah. Hold on just 1 second.
All right. No problem. Jodi's got to make some adjustments there, so we will pause here. And yeah, so basically, I guess what we'll probably do here is edit all this stuff out. But one thing I know I want to get into with Jodi also is how when we talk about our audio and our branding, I really want to understand, like, how do we implement that, right? Like we talk about it on this broad scale, but we don't know exactly how, at least I don't sometimes know exactly how to implement some of this stuff. So we'll get into that here in a second. Let's just check in with Jodi, see how she's doing. Jodi, how's it
I
going?
think I'm back.
Yeah, you look back to us.
I mean, that was interesting.
So, Ralph, why don't we reset your question?
Yeah, what I was saying. Thank you. So imagine a new podcaster has never thought about this before.
Mhm.
What are 3 sound decisions they should make on purpose, Jodi?
First thing I would say is be close to your mic, because that will make you sound a lot better, and the proximity effect will probably be there. So they'll get the full effect of your voice. And you want that to be intimate because you are talking in someone's ear. That's kind of how this works. So that would be number 1. Number 2 would be to have some kind of an intro. It does not have to be long. It doesn't even have to have music if you don't want it to, although that is a nice way to differentiate the intro from the rest of the podcast. And my other suggestion, because I was listening to a lot of marketing podcasts and I was hearing what they were doing with this, some people do a teaser intro. And I think that's a great idea, but it shouldn't be 2 minutes long. If you're going to do an intro, a minute or less is great. You know, when someone starts to wonder, well, is this the actual podcast? Or what's going on here? Like, they didn't intro, they didn't do anything. What's going on? When they start to question that, you know it's too long. And I came across that in several instances, and it truly annoyed me. So that's just one thing. Well, I guess, yeah. And having not necessarily, I mean, you can have it in the outro, but I think if you mention how people can subscribe, like where they can find you, etc., earlier on in the podcast, as opposed to right at the end, I think you're going to get a little more bang for your buck. I'm not saying don't have it at the end, but also have it somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what should a podcast's sound communicate before the host even says anything, and how could they do that?
Well, the sound often indicates who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it. So I think that is very important. Sorry,
yeah, take a second if you need to
I'm
adjust.
just rearranging my wire here.
Yeah.
I am wired in. So actually, that's another thing I could mention.
Okay.
Being wired in to your microphone and having headphones of some kind that are actually wired is going to help you immensely, because then you can turn off your echo cancellation. And echo cancellation takes your audio and muffles it and doesn't let people talk over each other, and it just ruins it in general. So you really don't want it.
I think that's a good example, just to give some people a way to connect it with what you're saying. Is it's common that Zoom has that turned on, and you'll hear when you're having those Zoom calls, when one person's talking and the other person's talking at the same time, one of them is almost muted, and they're trying to get in their words and you can't follow it, and it makes it very confusing. And that's one reason why a lot of people discourage Zoom as a tool for recording podcasts. I will say I wouldn't discourage it as long as you know how to tweak the settings appropriately.
Yeah,
but,
there's a sound for musicians or something like that.
Or yes, I turned that on.
Yeah,
or
if you
off.
turn that on,
I can't
it's
remember
much
which.
better.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's turning it on. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
you want to turn that on, because I think that turns off the echo cancellation and all of that stuff, although you can go in and drill down and find it. But also, I have had issues with people who connected using iPods or like AirPods or whatever,
Yeah.
because it's constantly seeking the Wi-Fi. And when it's doing that, it's interrupting the audio. So I got absolutely horrendously horrible audio from my guest because they were using AirPods or anything Wi-Fi that had to constantly connect to their computer. It just made it so bad. So please, if you're going to do it, be wired in and wear something in your ear. Like I'm wearing Bose noise canceling headphones right now.
Okay.
Like they're in-ear buds.
Yep.
But they're noise canceling, and I have a really long extension cord, and it goes behind me, so you don't see it. I didn't want to look like Princess Leia, but exactly, yeah. But you can get away with it that way. Yeah.
All right. Well, Matt Bliss has another question. Go ahead, Matt.
I just wanted to add a corollary to what you were saying there about the wireless and having cables. I would say that I like to think that I'm the best at that, working with audio as long as I have. But I have been in an instance where I didn't check my devices before getting into a virtual session, and the problem with using a separate earphone that can't monitor your own signal means that you can't check unless someone tells you if you're on the wrong microphone. So in the middle of a recording I was doing once, I had my Nothing over-ear Bluetooth headphones as my monitoring earphones. And unfortunately, the mic was connected to it. And halfway through the episode, being a co-host, I had to manually turn the microphone off of the Bluetooth so that the Riverside would then decide it has to go to the other default mic. And then I was crossing my fingers because I was like, come on, pick the mic I want. Don't pick a random one, because you can't switch them in Riverside halfway through. So the corollary to what you said there is not only make sure that you've picked a wired device, but make sure your computer knows that you've selected that device as the one that you intend to use.
That is such a good point. And I
does
will
help.
say also that I'm on a Windows PC machine, Windows 10, actually. I love this machine. It's a very expensive build that I did many years ago. And I have no intention of changing it or going to a Mac or anything like that. Everybody keeps trying to urge me to go to a Mac,
DR can relate. DR can relate. Yes.
So frustrating. I've been on a PC since DOS, so I am not switching. It's not happening.
Okay.
But what that means is, though, that you need to check your sound settings really every time that you go into a new session. So when I am using my in-booth setup, it works. It seems to hold its position. It seems to hold its settings, and I don't have to worry about it. But this one, because I am constantly going from bone conducting earbuds that I wear all over, like every day, I just don't take them off. I just wear them all day, and I'm plugged in, right? And when I use this, I have to make sure that the audio settings are set so that you can actually hear the mic, because PC, for some reason, or Windows, it suppresses the sound back to like an 8 from a 59. And I have to constantly make sure that I am looking at that. I once went into a session with a guest who was a fantastic sound design person and knew his stuff and sounded great. And I had not checked my mic before I went into that session, and it was set to like 8. And so when my editor was putting it all together, I was so soft, and he had to put the gain up on. Oh, what a nightmare.
Wow.
So yeah, just make sure that you check your settings before you go into a recording session. And I mean, any recording session, but yeah, make sure you check.
You know what's funny, Jodi, is I find it funny that, and I get it, that you're interested in hiding the wires from your headphones, but your microphone, you're cool with being in the shot. Like, why is that?
You know what? It's because I am a vain human being.
Yeah,
That's
but
why.
one's in the shot, the other you're trying to avoid. It's like, just keep it all in.
I don't mind the mic being here.
Yeah.
I don't want to have headphones on my head.
Yeah,
I don't.
I get it.
I have nice hair that I would
You
like
do have
to
nice hair.
display.
You do. Go for it, Ralph.
All right, Jodi, thank you. That's a great conversation there. So I got a question for you. As a professional voice actor, what do you do before recording that podcasters usually skip and we could start to do to be more effective in our delivery?
That is a really good question. I mean, before I go into a session in voiceover, I make sure I know the script. And when I say know, I don't mean memorized. I mean, I am familiar with it. I know how to pronounce the words that might be a little more difficult. I know how it all fits together. I know what the timing should be. So for me, that is preparing for a session and, of course, being hydrated and all of that stuff. But when it comes to podcasting, I think that it depends on how you do your show. Because a lot of people do have set questions that they go through and they just don't even really need to know stuff. The way that I do my show is I have a list of questions. I always do the first one the same. So I always ask my guests if they have an early memory of how sound moved them. That's my first question for everyone because I want us to have a sound discussion. Pardon me. And once I do that, everything else is kind of gravy because we're in a discussion and I want to follow their threads. So, I mean, my advice to anyone who doesn't actually just go through set questions is to actively listen. Just make sure that you're listening to what your guest is saying and think about the people who are listening to your podcast and what they might want to know more about. So, for instance, if they're saying terms that the average layperson may not understand, you might want them to explain. Ask them that question.
Jodi, I wanted to follow up a little bit because where I was going with that, and I apologize for not being clear on that, I just finished working with a speech coach. And one of the things she worked with me is about breath and pacing, emphasis and energy. And as a voice actor, I'm assuming those are all part of the skill that goes into doing those things for Dell and Lint and the CW networks. How can we as non-professional voiceover people start to develop that skill set?
Practice. Do it enough times and it just becomes natural. But yeah, breath control, I mean, that's always a thing. It's hard for me to say because I'm not a coach and I do a lot of this stuff unconsciously. So it's hard for me to put into words exactly how I would suggest other people do it. But knowing yourself is really key to all of this because people want your authentic self. They don't want you to put on a voice. So me telling you that you need to rely on vocal techniques or something, or it's just going to make you sound like a bad radio DJ. I don't want you to do that. Voiceover doesn't want you to do that.
Yeah. So then how much of voiceover is, because I'm about to ask this question because I know so many, especially new podcasters that can't stand their voice, right? They just hear it back and they can't stand it. How much of voiceover is having a quote unquote good voice versus knowing how to perform?
Oh, it's like 5% to 90%. Like 5% is about as much as they're going to pay attention to the sound of your voice. Yeah, that's great. But if you don't get the script, if you don't connect with what you're saying, if you're not actually having a conversation, they're not going to hire you. So it's nice to have a nice voice, but it can actually work against you in some instances. If I'm too polished in a way when it doesn't call for polished in a particular ad or whatever, I need to dial it back. I can't, so it just depends on what your style is. And I understand that people don't like the sound of their voice on recordings because recordings are completely objective. Recordings take your voice outside of the resonance of your own head and make it an objective audio experience. They just put it out there. And my suggestion to that is, yes, get more used to hearing your voice and it will annoy you less. But as you do this more often, you're going to get more effective at what you do. It's just going to come to you more naturally. So just doing it over and over again is going to make it better. But also it's sometimes, I hate to say it, it's sometimes the mic. If you don't like the sound of your
Interesting.
voice, maybe you should look into a different mic. And, that's not always the case, but it's something to think about.
Yeah.
You're talking my language. Spend some money. I love it.
It doesn't have
This
to
is
be, though.
fantastic.
Like I said, this is like $100 mic. This is not an expensive mic. There are many very inexpensive mics that you could experiment with. You do not have to spend a lot of money. The only reason I spend money in my booth is because people pay me.
So if you were going to spend a lot of money, and we're going to pivot to AI in a second, but if you're going to spend a lot of money on a microphone, Jodi, what would you spend money on? Like what? Because obviously, the more you spend, the better quality you get. Let's just be honest, right?
Well,
because
I
the
think she's saying
diaphragm
the
is
opposite,
bigger.
though.
Yeah, I'm not saying you necessarily have to spend a lot of money. Now, I will say that there are, I would say maybe like 3 or 4 tiers of mics. Like you probably have like a lower level $100 to $150 mics that all generally sound sort of the same, have kind of the same feel to them, depending on whether they're condenser or dynamic. You're going to have a completely different feel depending on that. But then you get up to like the $300 to $500 mics. Those are going to be a little bit of a step up. Those were where I started in voiceover, for instance. I had an AKG Perception 220, I think it was, when I first started. And it was like a $300 mic at the time. It's probably less now, but it was a workhorse and it did great work and I loved it. Now, of course, it was a condenser mic. So, I'm talking about condensers here, but dynamics, I'm sure, have the same kind of scale. And then you get into like the $1,000 to $3,000 mics, and those are something special. And honestly, for podcasting, I don't think it's worth it. I would not suggest anyone go and buy a mic that expensive unless you're making a living from it.
Sure. Yeah.
There's
All
no
right.
reason otherwise. But you can get even more than that. Like there are $20,000 mics that you would see in a studio. Like, yeah. But
Wow.
that's insane. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm trying to figure out how I want to orchestrate it because I know that Ralph just teased it. We want to get into AI and synthetic voices and the future of audio in that regard. First, Matt, I'm going to actually ask if you don't mind. I'm going to push forward a little bit because I know we're short on time. Ralph and I were talking that we thought it would be important to ask you a little bit about sound auditing with your podcast, right? So if you were auditing a podcast's sound, or maybe your very own podcast, if you were auditing it, what do you listen for first?
I listen to the quality of the general sound. If I can understand the discussion and the levels aren't changing all the time, and someone, there are a whole bunch of different things to think about, but levels are a big one because people who might be listening in their car or listening when they can't adjust the volume, they need to know that they can just listen straight through and not have to ride their volume control, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big one. Loud noises.
I agree with you. I agree with you because, yeah, especially when you have a show like ours, which I know not a lot of people do, where there's so many voices, leveling becomes really important because
Definitely.
Otherwise my audience is going to sit there and, like you were talking about, ride that volume control constantly, and eventually they're just going to give up. I mean, it's too much of a pain, especially like if you're in a car or you're doing your laundry, listening to have to constantly, it gets annoying as a listener. So I think I agree with you. That would be definitely one of my first suggestions.
Yeah. Also recording in a quiet space. And I'm not even talking about being close to your mic. That's a given. Okay. Please be close to your mic. But when it comes to sounds, like if I'm listening to a podcast and I hear a constant cat meow, like, come on.
Yeah. Right.
Like, unless that's a feature.
Right, unless you're doing a podcast about cats,
If
like
that's
that
a
might work well.
feature, or your cat is the co-host and you've made her or him the co-host, go for it, right? Like if that's, you can make it work for you. But otherwise, regular like noises and bangs and people are often fidgeting when they're doing these things. I've had this happen with some of my guests where they're fidgeting with something on the table and I can hear it, and I have to, or they're moving back and forth, or their foot is tapping or something like that, and it's like I can hear it. And I know it's going to be on the recording, and I have to interrupt things and say, just so you know,
Yeah.
you're making this noise and you really don't want to be doing that. So listening for that kind of thing, and hopefully nipping it in the bud before it becomes a problem is really the idea. You don't want to record it if you don't have to, but if you have it in your recording, there are various ways to get rid of it. But yeah, don't just leave it in.
Right. Okay,
If you
cool.
can do something about it, don't just leave it in. It becomes very annoying.
So before we get into AI, my last question around this whole sound audit question, what's the difference between sounding professional and sounding overproduced?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't want audio to hurt our ears.
Mm-hmm.
If it's annoying, then it's not going to work in your favor. If it's clean enough that you can get what you need and you sound like you're close enough to your mic, your room isn't completely echoey, and you haven't cut off words. Like I was auditing something just recently where clearly they let the AI just go through and do the editing. And words were cut off at the end. And you could hear the echo cancellation. Like you could hear someone's echoing words with someone else's recording. And like it was just, and it had stripped the music from the intro. Like it, and listening back to earlier episodes, I knew they had music. So I was like, what the heck just happened here? It was just like, first of all, audit your recording. Like, don't just let it go before you listen to it, because some things can come through that you maybe didn't think came through. But it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. I'm saying the sound should be good enough that you can get what you need from the podcast without it becoming a thing.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
If
that
it can
makes sense.
fade into the background and you sound good and you have segments that are delineated by some kind of sound, and you have an intro and an outro that you can, show where it is, then that's really all you need. And the rest of it becomes the audio branding of your own voice and what you say and how you sound and what your mannerisms are.
Yeah.
That's
And I
it.
think that's it. And I think if we embrace that, if we're confident in that, that really comes through to the audience. Yeah. All right. Let me just say, by the way, happy Clubhouse anniversary to Dave. I just noticed he has the little balloon on his profile picture there. Happy anniversary, Dave. And Gabe, I'm going to try to get to your question in the YouTube chat if I can. But first, Ralph and I want to lead us into a little bit of a discussion around AI. Go for it, Ralph.
Yeah, Jodi, I listen to your show every week, and I know you've been talking a lot about AI. And you've talked about AI's usefulness, but you also emphasize the importance of human connection in audio. So where do you see this balance? How do you see AI helping podcasters right now? And what does it look like for your industry as a voiceover person? Because it's got to be a little bit of a shock to the system now.
It's definitely a concern. And I will say that at this point, I kind of consider voiceover to be a bespoke service. So it's something that people pay for when they want the connection, when they want a human emotion. And the thing about a human voiceover is that we can layer on emotions in one word, right? You say things, when we talk to each other as human beings, we don't just have one emotion in our voice. We have many emotions. You can have sadness with a bit of wryness and a little bit of mischief, like you can have all of these things in one sentence, and AI can't do that yet. I'm not assuming it will never be able to, but AI in the sense that we're using it now is derivative. It is, it kind of extrapolates what would most likely come next. So it doesn't truly connect. It doesn't have a lived human experience. And when you're advertising, when you're marketing, when you're branding, these are important things to connect with the people who are experiencing your brand. You don't want to cheap out on that unless you have to. I mean, there are some people who are tiny and they just want to get the word out and they're going to make their whole ad in AI. And okay, fine. They never would have hired me anyway. I know that.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But for people who care about the connection, that's when you hire human. And, you know, there are various aspects of that. There are various levels of that. But I would say that AI is great for creativity, not great for it's great for productivity. Pardon me. I'll just erase that bit.
Yeah.
It's great for productivity. It's not great for creativity. It gives you the middle of the road. It's the American Idol of creativity, right? Because it always gives you the middle of the road, most expected thing. And I know creatives in the advertising industry that will ask AI what it would suggest and then go and do completely the opposite thing because
yeah, that's a good way to use it.
yeah, because like that's the unexpected, right? You don't want to do what's expected.
Yeah. And do you have any concern? Because it's right now we can safely say like what you're describing, that if we want emotion, if we want that human element, we go and hire somebody human, right? But are you concerned that we're going to get to a point sooner than later that AI is going to be able to convey that human side, that emotional side through voice?
The AI as it exists now, no, honestly, because it's emulating, it's not being. So when AI actually gains consciousness, maybe that would be an issue. But it doesn't have consciousness right now. It's just an algorithm extrapolating what the next most likely thing would be. That's all it's doing. So we call it AI, but it's not really AI. It's just processing things much quicker than we could as human beings. And when that becomes just its baseline and it moves to something else, well then, yeah, I think we have to worry about a lot more than just replacing voiceover.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that goes into that.
Yeah.
But right now, no, I'm not worried that it's going to, like, it can sound human-like, but it doesn't sound human. And in small doses, you may not be able to tell the difference. But I interviewed a fellow named Joe Sauer on my podcast, and he actually is a neurologist. Like he's a marketing neurologist. That's what he does. And his experiments on this kind of indicated that even if we don't consciously understand that it's an AI, we subconsciously understand that there's no human behind that because we are not getting a connection. We're not feeling.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem. And I think if you're in advertising, marketing, and branding, that's exactly what you want because people remember how they feel. That's what you want.
Yeah.
And a forgotten advertisement is a failed advertisement.
So my next question for you, Jodi, would you ever consider licensing your own voice for AI, like having AI use your voice? Would you ever do that?
I've done it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
With a specific location and for me having entire licensing control.
Okay.
That's the difference. There are a whole bunch of different options out there for people to license their voice. A lot of them have to do with subscription services and you paying a subscription service and then you have access to whatever voices over the period of a month or whatever. That does not pay the voice actor anything. It doesn't. It just doesn't. It's like Spotifying our voice. For me, like, you know what Spotify did to musicians? You know, subscriptions are doing that to voiceover. And that's just not, I don't even want a part of that. So because what I do is licensed, like a photograph is licensed, like a piece of music is licensed, I'm not giving my time for dollars. That's not what this is about. They're using my voice, and so they have to pay to use that voice. That's dependent on how many people are hearing it, where they're hearing it, how long they're hearing it, in what medium they're hearing it. That's all dependent on that. And if I have control over what I allow to license, I'm fine with whatever AI. Doesn't matter to me as long as they're paying. They wouldn't pay a session fee because they wouldn't be paying me a session because I wouldn't be there. But they're still paying to license my voice.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions around AI specifically? I know Jason's going to chime in here in a second, but just wanted to make sure if anyone had any other AI related questions. Okay.
Hey, Mark, I just want to jump in there for 1 second. It won't take but 30 seconds.
Go for it.
I know on one of your shows, Jodi, you talked about how a lot of voice actors are in this chase to the bottom now because of AI. And I like what you said. You actually said this is an opportunity for us to actually charge more. And it's an opportunity for us to be able to be that human connection and make those I don't say high ticket dollars, but honestly, that's what it is, right? I mean, people have to differentiate. Like you said a few seconds ago, they weren't going to pay me anyway. And as the money guy on the show, I love it when people say, listen, I have a skill, I have a talent, pay me for what I know how to do. So I just wanted to champion that, but I wanted to give you a second to talk about that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, what I was talking about with it being bespoke is, I mean, people pay for bespoke, right? You could go into a dollar store and buy a $5 mug, but if you go to Walmart, you know, sure, like you'll pay a little more. But if you go to like a local craft market or something, you might pay $25 for a mug. Okay. You know, I mean, like that's a really low end option, but you know, you pay for what you get, and human connection is worth paying for. Also, when you're making an AI voice, it can take you 3 to 4 hours to make something that is acceptable. Right? Now, if you don't have the money to pay a voice actor, I understand, you know, not everybody does. It's, you know, if you're a small business and you just want to get your word out there and whatever, I understand. AI has its uses. But if you hire a voice actor, the reason you're hiring a voice actor is also for efficiency. Because I can get done in 10 minutes what it would take you 3 to 4 hours to do with an AI. And it'll sound great.
Yeah.
It isn't just going to sound acceptable. Like that's what people pay me for.
Yeah. All right. Well, then here's what we'll do. Thank you for that, Jodi. And let's wrap it up. Jason's got something that he found in the chat that he's going to ask you. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, this is I guess a lighter way to wrap things up, and it's something that I've seen voice actors talk about before, so I'm excited to hear the answer as well. This comes from Gabe. Has Jodi ever done a voice reading that made her laugh so much that she had to record it multiple times?
Yeah, definitely. I think we all have, but honestly, it's the more touching ones that made me have to record many different times. So as a voice actor, you kind of need to have that empathy on like supercharge because you need to understand what the gist of the script is, where it's trying to take you, what emotions people want to feel, what the people who wrote that script want people to feel when they experience the end project. And a lot of times I do a lot of hospital work. I do a lot of healthcare work, and I can never get bogged down in the, oh my God, this is so awful of it, because people don't want that. They want hope. They don't want you to be light about it, but they don't want you to be overly dramatic and deep and dark and upset, right? They want you to be hopeful. So I've seen some scripts that come to me where, oh my God, this person's going through such an awful time. And like watching the video, looking at what's going on in this person's life, I'm crying. Like and you know, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you know that it's really hard to speak when you're crying.
Yeah.
So there have been scripts that have taken me in that direction, and I need to sort of like almost take a step back, because if I'm too involved in it, I can get too emotional. And that's not a good place to come at it from either. So yeah, I have to be very careful about how much empathy I feel for what's going on.
Yeah.
Otherwise I wouldn't be able to speak. So yeah, but I mean, you come from that place. You come from a place of humanity, of feeling badly for these people and wanting to help.
Yeah.
And so that's where I have to take it. That's where the hope comes in.
So that's voiceoversandvocals.com. If you want to hear some of Jodi's work, see what her work is all about, check that out. And if you're there, you could also go to voiceoversandvocals.com/podcast to learn about her audio branding podcast. Jodi, thank you so much. We finally got you on the show after all this time. And I guess that's due to our time change. That's part of it, right?
It definitely is, yes.
Okay. So the 8 a.m. is working for us because we're getting great guests like you. Thank you so much for all your knowledge and expertise, sharing all that with us. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was so much fun.
Yeah, and thanks for also being a listener, too. I know you've been popping in here and listening and joining us in the chats and all that, so thank you. It's been great to have you.
Much easier at 8.
Yes, agreed. Trust me. It only took 4 years of torturing myself to realize that.
There you go. We got to learn the hard way.
Yes, and I want to remind everybody that we are back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. We are covering all the headlines around the world of podcasting, talking news, and giving you our thoughts and opinions on some of these stories that we'll cover. So join us tomorrow. You can do that by going to podcastingmorningshow.com/join us. And until then, make it a great day, everybody. Take care.